Hello and welcome to the Sanctuary, a safe space to speak from the heart. I'm your host, Israel, and my guest today, it's like three people in one, a throuple, the Poly Triad. Thanks for coming to the Sanctuary today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're glad to be here.
So yeah, how are you guys doing?
Oh, I feel like we're all doing all right. I won't speak for them.
Yeah, no, we're doing great. Took a nap with the puppy this morning already, so that's always a great start to a day.
How many animals do you guys have?
We have 2 dogs and 2 cats.
Oh.
Sometimes.
Isn't that a lot though? Like, is it a lot? I don't know. I don't have any pets, so.
It's perfect.
Some days it can be a lot when there's just everything going on in your life, and you
Right.
also have 4 animals to take care of on top of that. Some days it's like, oof, that's a lot.
Yeah, and you have to walk them, right?
Oh, they need more than just walks. These dogs, because they're very young, one's only 1.5 years and the other is 3.5 years. And they're very high energy dogs. So even like a 5-mile walk at human pace is not enough for them. They have to be ran full out for at least an hour a day.
No. Do you guys have a yard out back that they can do that, or?
Yes, a
Okay.
yard. We live near a lot of open space, so we play a lot of fetch. Luckily,
Nice.
they're really great fetchers. And we also throw toys down the stairs, and they do stairs fetch.
Who's the Poly Triad?
So we are the Poly Triad. I'm Jack, and I was born and raised in southern U.S. I've kind of worked in the insurance industry my whole life, and have a bunch of fun hobbies. But my big hobby now is that I make porn.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm Nikki, and I'm a Midwest girl who moved to the South to go to one of the biggest universities in the U.S. And I now work in environmental health, and I have a lot of hobbies that include scuba diving and bread baking and cooking and hiking. Pretty much I love being outdoors. And I also make porn.
Alrighty then. And there's a third person, right?
Yes, that would be me. I'm Minxie. I originally hail from the southeast region of the U.S. I was in the military for 4 years. I now work in information technology, IT, and I make porn.
We all have one common hobby.
That's not what brought us together.
It's not actually.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so how do you meet then?
Oh man, do you want to start that one?
Yeah, so Jack and I met around 8 years ago online. We internet dated, and by our 3rd date, I knew that it was meant to be. And I asked him if he wanted to be exclusive with me, because we were young and dumb. And and he said he absolutely saw this going somewhere and saw a future together. And 8 years have gone by, and it's definitely morphed from a exclusive monogamous relationship to new things every day.
Yeah. Non-monogamous, polyamorous, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's technically both of those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's definitely we've tried a lot of things out. We've been swingers. We formed this triad with the 3 of us, and then we've kind of gotten to this point now where we're more open, polyamorous style, more non-monogamy focused.
Mm.
And then we met Minxie. It was about 1.5 years ago now.
About 1.5 years ago.
Oh yeah, this year will be 2 years. Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been that long.
You know, COVID does that, right? Because I noticed I'm saying last year, but I'm talking about the year before. Because like
Same.
COVID just shut everything. Wait. You guys met during COVID, and like COVID has broken a lot of people, but it actually brought you to like 3 together. What happened there?
Well, Can I take this one?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we actually met before COVID got started in 2019, October of 2019. I met Jack at a business networking event that I was already part of this group. We'll call it a cult because that's what it is. So Jack was a visitor, and we happened to schedule a meeting because he was interested in my career field. I was interested in his business he was running. And 1 hour conversation turned into 5. And then we had Thanksgiving together, which rolled into January of 2020, starting a polyamorous triad.
Yeah.
Wait. So I like breaking things down a bit.
There's a lot to break down.
There's a lot
there.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay, so first I start, like I watch a lot of Netflix, and like whenever I think of cults, I think of like, all those Netflix docs, right?
There's no Kool-Aid.
Was it something like that or?
No, there's Kool-Aid for sure. Well, they tried to induct me in, and when they told me that you had to pay all this money and you could only miss 2, so it's like a weekly thing that you have to show up to, and if you miss it, like if you miss it twice, then they kick you out. So you pay money to be in it, and then if you don't show up, then they just kick you out. And they have all these like really specific requirements that you have to meet like weekly.
Holy
And so I was like, okay, I get it. Like everything they're talking about would be great for producing business, but also like it's a big
It's a
It's a
very
commitment.
big
It's a big
commitment
commitment,
if you can't take on that commitment, because every week you're having to do all this stuff for this group on top of your business. So
Yeah.
it's a lot.
It was a
Okay.
lot. And it was intimidating. So I was like, I don't know. I'm not going to do it.
So like you guys met there, and one of the things like not being born in North America, one thing I've known is that if you are invited to Thanksgiving, you are really special. So that's like you invited Minxie to Thanksgiving. Why? Like,
So that's my fault.
Uh-huh.
So I grew up with not always having access to my family. And so for me, friends very much became family. And I had spent many a holiday being invited to friends' houses and just feeling welcome when I couldn't go home to my family.
Friendsgiving.
Friendsgiving. And so I have taken that culture with me throughout my adult life. And anyone who doesn't have a home to go to or can't make it back home for holidays gets invited to my house, and I cook for them for holidays.
oh.
And so Minxie was one of those. We had another friend here. We actually had 2 other friends here that Thanksgiving as well.
That was an interesting Thanksgiving. I was the only
Guy.
male out of how many people?
Four women.
And that was actually the first time
Four.
that Nikki and I had a threesome, and it wasn't with
It was not with
Minxie.
Minxie. It was with one of the other gals that stayed with us.
Yes. And Minxie was there, and I think it could have been like a foursome, but
Could have been.
I
but
got
she
a little
was
too schwasty.
she was tasting the toilet.
She drank a lot of mimosas.
I tried to catch up, which is always a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's impossible to catch up with a 6'6", 300-pound man.
Oh, it wasn't
Yeah.
just like, I got to the party late, so I was trying to catch up, and I just
Oh, and sure.
Over
my
limit.
Okay, so like so when you met Nikki and Jack, like was anyone doing any swinging thing, like as in because you said that you were gonna like be just together and go like just the 2 of you. How did that go from that to like, oh, let's meet other people and stuff?
I'll take this one.
Sure. So Jack and I had not been swinging for a while, for like probably about a year and a half or so. Yeah, about a year and a half or so. And I met Minxie, and I didn't like her. I didn't like her at first. I grew to love her, obviously. But I was like, who's this woman coming into my house? And then I grew to really appreciate her and really love her. And I felt like she could tick some boxes that perhaps our monogamous marriage couldn't tick for each other. And at the time, I wasn't even thinking about myself. I was thinking about Jack. And I was hoping that he could find a box ticked within her and that I could find a box ticked with somebody else. And so we kind of cultivated a potential relationship with her and Jack. And then in January of 2020, I went to Ireland and she dog sat for me. And before she left, or before I left, we ended up getting really drunk and and sleeping together.
Yep.
All right.
And I was like, well, we've both now slept with the same girl and like we both kind of like her. So like, why don't we just join her, like have her join our relationship?
Yeah, and during this
Oh.
time, I had been commuting to a new job in another state.
Yeah.
So I was not here. I was actually there most of the time, and I was coming back visiting here. So it's kind of funny. Like originally, when I met Minxie, my ultimate goal was like, oh, this person has a lot of personality traits that I think would mesh well with Nikki. So like maybe when I move out, this would be a good friendship / roommate situation. And then like, you know, a couple months
Yes.
later, that changed. Yeah.
So
yeah,
when
thank you, Jack.
when you guys slept before you moved to or went to Ireland, you told Jack right away, right?
Yeah, so it was actually like a Friday night. We were just drinking some sangria, watching some movies, and it was snowing, and it was like this super romantic moment that we were outside with my brand new puppy. My puppy was like 4 months old. So we were outside with a brand new puppy, and it was snowing, and it was beautiful, and we started making out in the snow, and then it went to the bedroom. And then we sent him a Snapchat at like 2
2
o'clock in the
Something like
morning.
2 a.m.
And we're like, it was like a naked selfie of us. And we're
In the
like,
shower.
oh, how in the shower. And it was
Yeah.
like, oh, this just happened.
Yeah, I remember I woke up Saturday morning. I had woken up Saturday morning and I was like, opened up my Snapchat and I saw that and I was like, what does this mean? Because so like to add some more to the story, what had happened was Nikki had found this guy she was really interested in and she wanted to have a sex with him and have the sex. She wanted to have sex with him and she was like, you know, if I have a sex pass, I'll give you a sex pass. And she sort of just assumed it would be Minxie. And so because of her, she kind of put it together. She was like, you should fuck
She's a
Minxie.
great wing woman.
Yeah, she was like, you should fuck
Great
Minxie. And I was
wing
like, oh, I never really thought about that. And so I had texted her and I was like, hey, my wife's giving me a pass. Like I kind of into you. Like I feel like you're kind of into me. Maybe we could do this. And at first, you know, she was definitely against it because it felt like cheating. And then Nikki texted her and was like, no, it's not cheating. I want you to do this.
I want you to be the sex pass. I know that you're in love with my husband. It's obvious.
Hey, I was trying to keep it under wraps.
You're doing an okay job.
Oh, man. So
So
that had
I
happened.
yented that situation.
She did. So Minxie and I had hooked up. And
I never got my sex pass, by the way.
no, she got it 2 years later.
I got
But
it.
we'll
I
talk
got it
about
2 years
that.
later.
We'll talk about that later. But we had our sex pass, and then I moved, and then they hooked up, and then that's how it kind of became what it is. That was the beginnings.
Yep.
Yeah, crazy. I'll say that.
So 2 years, like, what happened in the 2 years? Like, is there like a vetting process that takes that long or what?
You know, we're gonna try to fast track it in the future. No, I met this guy that just immediately we just really had a connection, and we met about 2 years ago. And at first it was like, hey, we have to keep this 100% platonic. You know, I'm happily married, super into you, but I also just really love your personality and I want to be your friend. And he was very respectful of that, never pushed a boundary. And then I was like, well, you know, we'd been talking a lot about how everyone, you know, say you have 10 boxes and not one person can check all 10 boxes. And Jack was the one that was introducing me to this concept and saying, do I really check all 10 of your boxes? Well, no, maybe you check, 7 or 8. And so we started kind of discussing, what if we brought in other people to check those boxes, to fill those needs that aren't 100% being filled within the marriage. And I was like, well, hey, this guy fills a need. I'm super into him. And, I wanted Jack to be able to have an equal opportunity to be excited about somebody. And that's kind of what started our polyamory, was that realization that there's not necessarily one person that can fill all of your needs.
Yeah. So like, before this, did any of you have any poly or non-monogamy or swinging experiences?
So honestly, it all starts with me. So like I had swinging experience, and then when I met Nikki, I was actually in a polyamorous relationship with this girl, and I broke that off to go fully exclusive with Nikki. So I had that experience, and when we started dating, of course, there was that honeymoon phase. So nothing really mattered. We were just fucking each other like bunnies, I think it was like multiple times a day. I mean, we were just it was a lot. So once that starts to die down, give it a year or so, I started mentioning, I was like, I actually really like the swing lifestyle. It's not a huge, like, it wasn't like a make it or break it factor for me, but it was like, hey, we could have a lot of fun with this,
Were you guys married then? When you had these conversations, or
no,
we were not even engaged yet, actually.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
And so I had mentioned it, and and told Nikki, I was like, like I said, it's not a deal breaker. I just really enjoy it. Here's why. And one of the big reasons is like I was kind of a dork nerd in high school, college, so I never really had my opportunity to play the field, so-called.
To live your whole life.
Yeah, and I've always wanted to live that life. And so I told her, I was like, in college, you tell them.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I went to one of the largest universities in the U.S., and I definitely lived my best hoe life. I had an amazing major. I had an amazing time in college. I definitely sampled all there was to sample about 18 to 22-year-old life.
Lots of penis. Also, some girls.
Some girls too.
Yeah,
definitely not super straight. Definitely understood when he was like, I wish I'd been able to experience that. I was like, I get that. I definitely understand that feeling. However, I think I'm kind of past that feeling, having already done it. But I was trying to figure out a way we could both support each other and enjoy it. And that's when he proposed swinging.
Yep. So we had joined the swingers lifestyle, I got on the websites, started finding people. We started
clubs. That was fun.
Yeah, the clubs are a lot of fun.
Clubs were fun.
What is fun about it?
The whole, for me personally, it was super anxiety inducing of wearing skimpy clothing and going to a club that people are going to have sex at. But then when I got there and a couple of drinks in, I was like, this is fun. I like watching people. I like when people watch us. I don't necessarily really want to go just fuck strangers in a club, but I like being around people doing just being their best lives, it was just really cool experience for me.
Yeah, the place we went to was pretty sweet too. They had hot tubs and orgy rooms, private rooms, semi-private rooms, mirrored, BDSM. They had a lot of cool stuff. They ended up getting shut down, but unfortunately,
permitting issues with the city.
Yeah,
they shut them down.
Yeah, it was sad moment. But we had some fun, and then we had just a moment of rockiness in the relationship. We owned a business together, so we were spending 24/7 together, and I think we handled it pretty well. I've heard horror stories of people who do that, and it's leads to divorce.
And we're not divorced, so I'd say that was a success.
We operated a business together. We moved. We did a lot. So there was a break, and then once we got to where we are now, we had started talking about it again, just sort of like, hey, is this something that we'd be interested in? We weren't totally sure. I mentioned polyamory a little bit, like how I would be really interested in that, especially like the conversation really came to a head point when I was taking a job and going to be commuting. And so we had sort of spoken about it more, like what about dating so we can have needs fulfilled. And at that time, we weren't totally ready for it yet. And then Minxie sort of just fell into our lap. Like all of this
Well,
in
and
this
I think
moment.
that Thanksgiving threesome, I think that is what really, because that was the first time that it wasn't swinging with another couple. It was just a woman. And I didn't have any weird feelings. Like it was a really, really fun experience for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I was like, I could do this again.
So
I could
when you say
have
you didn't have a weird feeling, like contrast back to when you guys were swinging, what would be the difference between the two experiences?
some jealousy, some I don't know. It seems like I'm very quiet most of the time. And like some of these girls that we would swing with would be like really vocal, and it just sounded like they were having such a great time.
Party girls for sure.
And I was just like, I want to be that. I want to experience that. Like I'm just not that vocal
Mm-hmm.
most of the time.
Yeah.
But so there'd be some jealousy of like, well, am I having as much fun as he's giving them? Also, it's really
Mm.
hard to find couples where like both of us really connect with the couple.
That's the other thing, right? Yeah, especially when it comes to couples, like say one person from the other, or like one person from one couple likes the other person, but then there's no chemistry between the flip side. You know what I mean? Did you
That's
ever
actually,
have
I would
such
say
an
that's the most common
experience?
issue.
It's absolutely the most common.
That would say that's the biggest issue in the whole lifestyle is there's pressure involved with that.
Hmm.
So you might have a couple where two of them are really into each other and the other two are not at all. So the other two give up some of maybe they allow more than they thought they were willing, or they go past their limits or their comfort levels so that their partner can have this.
Hmm.
And
We
I
were definitely guilty of that.
Yeah, and I think it's like I said, I think that's very common. It's like people don't understand. It's really, imagine finding one other person that like you mesh really well with. Now you have to double that, and especially like if it's about a bisexual relationship, then you got to think about the crisscross of that as well. So I call it shopping around. You just shop and shop and shop and shop and shop until you find the right couple or person or people.
Or the
Where like
person falls in your lap.
Hmm.
right, or in our situation, Minxie, who just literally fell into our lap.
Or a
Right,
friend
right,
at
right.
Thanksgiving, she literally just fell into our lap, and there was no jealousy. It was I mean, we're still really good friends to this day. She and I were the ones that went to Ireland together 2 months after that. So, like she's still a very close friend. And it was just a really positive experience for Jack and I.
Hmm.
And after that, I was like, if this is what poly can feel like, maybe I'm more open to it rather than swinging.
Yeah.
So, like, for you, Minxie, was this something you ever did, try, practice before you moved?
God.
Or did this people corrupt you?
Oh,
Oh,
no.
man.
Oh, we corrupted her.
Oh,
So I really struggled with my sexuality from about 17 from about 17 to the past couple of years, honestly, because I went through a period of time where I thought I was asexual because I didn't really feel that sexual attraction to anyone. And, I thought it was normal that people they do that. They feel lust for other people. They look at a person like, I do them, and I'm just like, I don't get it. Um, so, and I grew up in a very conservative Christian background. So I was raised with the whole idea of monogamy, you get married, you have kids, all that. And so it took my personal discovery into BDSM because I had been delving into that personally on my own before I met Jack and Nikki. So, it took me realizing that there isn't necessarily a norm for sexual attraction or how relationships and all that work.
Mm.
2 years ago, I finally figured out that I'm demisexual, which means for me to be sexually attracted to somebody, I have to have a relationship with them first, whether that's platonic or romantic. So I never really expected to be in a polyamorous relationship, but I will say it is one of the best things that's ever happened to me.
Why?
Well, for one, both Jack and Nikki are pretty fantastic people. And they kind of met me when I was at a kind of a slump in my life and I was trying to pull myself together. And they helped me realize that certain traumas that had happened in my past didn't define me. And because of that, I was able to move forward, and I'm in the best place that I've been in my life because of the two of them.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, when I met her, she was in a not a great living situation, not a great job situation, not a good mental health space. And I could kind of see that. I mean, not kind of, I totally saw it when we
Oh,
had
she made
our,
it obvious.
well, absolutely.
She wore her trauma as the definition of who she was at the time.
Mm.
Yeah,
And
so
In
and
what way, though?
what was that?
In what way?
Go ahead.
I hadn't realized it, but I had created a sort of victim complex for myself. And I was using that as a shield between myself and the world and why everything was wrong in my life, instead of taking a look at what I was doing and being like, well, you could actually be getting out, going for a walk, actually doing something to improve my situation instead of just sitting in my own misery, which is basically what I was doing.
Mm.
So Nikki really is the one that gave me the jolts out of that mindset that pushed me toward improving myself. Like, I'm going back to school now, actually, for my bachelor's.
Nice, nice.
yeah.
And why? As in, I guess, Nikki, what did you see in Minxie that made you? Actually, what did you do exactly to get out of that funk?
Well, all great stories start with alcohol.
Oh gosh.
No, so we were sitting at the kitchen table, just drinking, eating, hanging out, and over the few weeks I had known her, I think I heard her trauma story every single day that I saw her. She would make some mention of it. And I'm the kind of person that I don't mince words.
She's very blunt, is what she means to say.
And
Blunt.
if you're going to be my friend, you're going to know exactly where you stand and how you stand with me. And I saw potential in her. I saw that she could be an amazing human being, and she was holding herself back by being this victim. And there's one thing I have a very low tolerance for is victim personalities.
Mm.
And so she's telling her story again for like the 17th time to me. And I just stopped her and I was like, do you think you're special? Because you're not special. Yeah, your story is tragic. It's sad. I'm so sorry that it happened to you. But is that the person you want to be known for? Is that who you are? Or are you somebody else? Are you somebody special? Because right now, you're not special. And there were lots of tears. And I've seen her since then. I've seen her really grow and become conscientious of that victim mentality and learn to heal from her past and learn to move into her future and be present in the here and now. And do extraordinary things. Like, we climbed the second highest mountain in the lower 48 states last year. It's
Wow.
14,441 feet or something
Something like that.
ridiculous,
I have to go
stupid.
check the
No.
picture.
No,
And
no.
you know, like,
Almost
we've
killed yourself.
almost killed ourselves.
15 hours on this mountain.
Oh yeah.
15 hours on a mountain. I have severe asthma. I definitely probably could have died.
Oh my
It was
God.
awesome. But I've seen her do extraordinary things, and now I think she is special. And it's not because of what happened to her, it's because of who she's choosing to be today.
So I know it sounds kind of brutal, and it even goes earlier than that, because this is something that was similarly happening with Nikki when she and I had first met.
Yes.
And I brought this up, and I know it sounds really shitty, but it's like you can choose to be in this victim mindset. You can choose to exist in this headspace of woe unto me, the horrors of my life, and be sad and depressed and not motivated to do anything because you've made this sort of your identity. Or you can, once again, it's a little brutal, but you can nut up or shut up. You can
And this
decide.
is not dismissing mental illness. That is a very different subject. So I don't want those lines to be crossed in any way. This is just using your past as your identity.
Yeah, so we're very, very mental health focused. We all go to therapy every week. We have group therapy, so we have individual.
Wait. Sorry. You do it all together,
as well as individual.
Oh my God! How does that how did that start? And how helpful is it though?
I think it's integral into like not just our relationship, but like the growth of an individual who has been through trauma. I think everyone should at least experience therapy once in their life, trauma or not. But for people who have trauma, I think it's absolutely important to get past it. So that's where we are now. But in reference to that, Nikki had lots of therapy, but this thing was still a problem. And we worked really hard to move forward and say, what kind of identity can we form now that isn't based on this trauma? And because of that realization, she flourished.
I mean, he actually told me the same thing. He said, "You're not special." And this was like a month into our relationship. He was like, "You're not special. Like, do you want that to be who you are?" And I was like, "No, this isn't who I am." And he was like, "Then stop making it that." And I was like, "Shit, you're right."
Yeah, and she found something to be special about. She's a power lifter now. She was already a scuba diver. But my point is that she found other things to sort of create a better identity.
Empowerment,
exactly. So that's how this all started. It was like bam, 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 and now here we are.
Right. So and then what was the push for the three of you to get into therapy together? And was it easy to find a therapist that understood what the dynamics of your relationship is?
I'll take that one.
Yep.
So yes and no. So I think I was the impetus for the therapy. I've been doing therapy since 2007, off and on. And I knew coming into this new polyamorous relationship, this triad, that I was going to have to work through a lot of jealousy and selfishness issues. And I read all the literature, on polyamory. And I was like, I'm reading that, jealousy is a normal feeling, but I don't know how to make it less. I feel like I'm crazy because I have so much jealousy. So I started seeing a new therapist. And I told Jack, I said, I think that you and I should also see a therapist together, just so that we can have a place to help through any of our issues that might come up or any past issues. And then, Minxie came and she had baggage. And so I said, hey, if this is going to work, I really feel like you also should see a therapist. Because I feel like if we're all going to move forward to be our best selves, we all need to work on ourselves. And that includes therapy, as one aspect of it. And so I ended up just Google searching polyamorous therapists in our area, and there were 2 of them.
Holy shit. That's a very tiny pot to choose from.
Better than zero.
Yeah, it's better than zero.
Right.
I reached out to both of them, and one of them responded back, and she was like, yeah, I actually specialize in polyamory, BDSM, LGBTQ. She was ticking all the boxes. And I was like, well, okay, you're going to be our group therapist now. So we've been seeing her for about a year. And then Jack also sees her for his personal therapy.
Yeah, I had gone through, was it two others?
Two others.
Yeah, and the problem is so many people just don't, not people, therapists, just don't grasp the whole non-monogamous polyamorous. Like they say they get it, but like they're not helpful.
Yeah.
They don't have any experience in that. So I had gone through two therapists and I was like, yeah, this is just not working out, until we had landed on our group therapist, and I was like, maybe she's my best person to see.
How do you choose though? Like, as in, I guess, what makes you feel comfortable with one person and not the other?
I think it's super person specific. I know for me, I see a therapist that's not our group therapist, and I've been seeing him for 1.5 years now. And I liked him initially because the first day I met him, I sat down, I said, here's what I've got going on. I'm in a polyamorous relationship. I'm atheist. I'm not going to do anything normal. And if you're not okay with this, or you think you have any biases, tell me now and I'll leave your office. And he was like, totally cool with everything you just said. And he was like, as long as you're cool with, I do believe in God, I don't go to church, but I'm not going to shove it down your throat. And I was like, cool, we can be people. Like I said, I'm very blunt. And so after that first session, he's just been really, really supportive and really great in my personal growth. And he may not fully understand polyamory or BDSM, but every time he encounters something that he doesn't understand, he'll research it. And that next week, then he'll come into our session and say, hey, I've now researched what we talked about last week. Here's some, not advice, but here's where we can go from here in our sessions. And so I really appreciate that. I like someone who's willing to also work for me. If I'm having to do all this work for you, like, you need to work for me too.
Yeah. So, you guys now are together. It started from Minxie being with Jack, and Jack first, and then Nikki, but it's sex, right? But like, how did you go from, okay, we're just fucking, to like, we're together now?
It was pretty simultaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was completely simultaneous. Like, I think it plays into Minxie's like demisexualness, in that she didn't want to just have sex with us because she wanted to have sex. She was into the both of us.
Well, why don't you talk about how much in love with him you were?
Well, I mean, there's a reason why our 1 hour initial conversation turned into 5. We clicked pretty immediately, and I would say that Nikki and I, even though Nikki was trying not to like me, we also clicked because there's a lot of things that we both enjoy. Like, we're both huge sci-fi fans. Like Doctor Who, greatest thing ever. But I definitely had a huge crush on Jack pretty much from the get-go. But, I found out during that conversation he was married. I'm like, okay, try not to be too obvious about it. Clearly I failed in that
very
matter.
Obvious.
Oh, man.
Moment I met her, I was like, Jack, she's in love with you. No, she's not.
So I definitely tried to like quash the feeling. Did not happen though. I came to really enjoy Nikki's company as well. I was very intimidated by her at first because she was a very, very powerful personality compared to the people that I was used to. So it was like, oh, that's like, you're awesome, but I don't know if I can stand like in your spotlight as well. So like that relationship on both sides develops fairly naturally. And once it hit the sexual component, I'm kind of one of those people, I think we all are, of either it's all or nothing. And
Accurate.
That's pretty much the place that I hit. Was I'm ready to be in this with you guys for the long haul.
I was her first woman.
I was
the first woman she's ever slept with.
They went full lesbian very fast. How quick did you meet her?
The next day.
It was while she was in Ireland. I was house sitting, dog sitting, and I kind of just didn't move back out after that. So
I tried to send her home a couple times. And Jack noticed that when I would send her back to her house, that I would be sad and kind of grumpy.
So would she.
And so would Minxie. And so he was like, okay, come on, like just be lesbians, like just figure your shit out, move in.
Yeah, that time I had been planning to visit, come back after a month and a half of my new job. And this was just getting settled in, and we hadn't all hooked up, the three of us. So that weekend
It
was
was in February.
Ooh, that was a sexathon.
it was
yeah,
just
it was.
like 72 hours of no getting sex.
Yep.
It was, but I will say, leading up to that first weekend where it was the three of us, I was so anxious for like the week prior. And it was funny because I'm like, I've literally fucked both these people now dozens of times. I mean, obviously, Jack and I have been married for 7 years then. Minxie and I mean, it was like every day. And I was like, why am I so nervous? And it was a nerve-wracking, like, are the three of us going to have a good dynamic? Are the three of us going to get along well? Are the three of us going to have like a good sexual dynamic? Am I going to be okay watching Jack fuck Minxie? You know, like, there was a lot that I had to figure out and I had to unpack, and it ended up being like the greatest weekend ever.
Yeah.
And now we live it full time.
Right. Okay. You know what I was thinking? This is a good place to stop, and then we'll pick it up, because now you're pretty much living together, and like you actually are in make porn together. I think that's what we should pick up in the next episode. Thanks for coming to the sanctuary, and hold on, we'll pick it right up. Okay.